Hey guys, welcome to a first recap of my new tournament, the Nauris Cup here in Kazakhstan, Almaty. A very nice tournament with lots of local masters, and today I played two national champions of Kazakhstan in a row. In the first round, I played the under 20 national champion of Kazakhstan, Tleukanov Yerlan, who is rated around 2300 FIDE and who is a FIDE master. So a very strong opponent, obviously. And in round two, I played the reigning under 20 Kazakhstan national champion, Vladislav Maligin, who is not a master yet, but definitely will be, and he's rated close to 2200. And you should know that in Kazakhstan there is rating deflation, so obviously these guys are much stronger than their ratings. Both of them have beaten grandmasters repeatedly. For example, Vladislav has beaten 2600 plus rated grandmasters in classical. So yeah, obviously strong opponents, and I'm proud to say that in one of the games I played at 99% accuracy according to Stockfish, according to chess.com's engine. Let's dive into the games. Very exciting and very instructive, both of them. So in the first one, I play e4 against Tleukanov, who is a FIDE master, and I was preparing for his various Sicilians that he plays, c5, and I thought he'll play the Sicilian defense, but obviously youngsters these days play everything, and he went for e5. And I decided in turn to surprise him with my pet line with the a3 in the 4 knights. You might have seen me play this against none other than Wei E, grandmaster who's in the candidates this year, and I drew Wei E in this very line. Check out the podcast if you haven't yet seen it. So Wei E, I think, went for bishop e7 or d6 in some or other move order, but I here, or my opponent, went for the most principled d5, and he was playing all the moves instantly, so he was well prepped, because this is a rare line. If you play it against your opponents online, especially, nobody will know this, nobody will feel comfortable, but my opponent felt comfortable. He was prepared, even though I have just one game in the database where I played this last year in the Asian chess championship. I played this against an international master from Indonesia, and I drew him. So that's the only game that I have in the system, but probably he's just a guy who knows all the openings, my opponent, because he's a national champion of Kazakhstan. This is very challenging, because juniors in Kazakhstan are among the strongest in the world. If we take Kazakhstan, it's like Kazakhstan, India, and Uzbekistan, 3 top countries for chess juniors. So okay, after d5, bishop b5 is the main move. Takes queen e2, this is all theory. If black takes on c3, white can take on e5, and the knight is pinned, so the knight cannot take the queen, and there is an endgame which is favorable for white. After all this, my opponent plays instantly the best move, queen d6, and here I take the knight, and he instantly plays bishop d7, again the best move. I play d4, and he castles. I take, he takes, and there is a very fun trap here. If white takes the knight, there will be devastating consequences for white. So please find a winning, beautiful combination for black. You can pause the video. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to show you the winning combination. It's queen d1. Sacrifice the queen, and after king takes, bishop g4, double check. Double check, the king can only go to e1, and then rook d1 is checkmate. This is a very fancy combination, very thematic. You may have seen some classical games featuring it. For example, Paul Morphy, opera game, obviously. So of course I do not take the knight. Of course I just take the bishop with check. He takes with the rook. Of course I do not take the knight again, because that would handmate. I castle. He takes, I take, and I'm a little bit frustrated because he plays all the best moves, and now the position is equal, and we go into an endgame that is completely dead equal. But this is not the end of the game, first of all. Second of all, I'm rated currently 1900 something, 1950. I was rated before the previous tournament, but I dropped some points, so even below that in live ratings. He is rated close to 2300. So if he draws me, this is exactly the situation that I have when I play against some juniors in Kazakhstan who are less strong, or whose rating is not yet as high as my today's opponent. I'm afraid of drawing them because with each draw I lose rating points, and my opponent definitely wants to win, even though it's a dead drawn endgame. So I'm thinking, okay, he wants to win. Maybe he will overpress. Maybe I can create some chances. And actually, this was some kind of a foretelling. You will see it. So queen d5, we trade the queens. Dead equal endgame. I have 3 pawns on the queen side, 3 pawns on the king side. He has 3 pawns on the king side, 3 pawns on the queen side. They face each other. Bishops are like we will trade the bishops in a move. So why don't we just go home? No, this game will last. You know how many more games? 33 more moves. 33 more moves. Yes. So I can take, but then he'll take with the rook, and after c3 he can go rook d5 back. And after rook g1 he'll double the rook and he'll infiltrate on d2. I don't want that to happen, so first I go c4, I take in his rook, and only then I take the bishop, and then I go b3, and my pawn prevents him from going to the d file. He goes b5 here, trying to break my pawn structure, but I take and go b4. He goes rook d8. He obviously wants to win. He thinks, oh, my opponent is some kind of noob with a 1900 rating. Well, probably he knows who I am, because in Kazakhstan many people watch my blog, so maybe he thinks I'm not such a noob, but maybe maybe he thinks I'm a noob still. So he wants to win, obviously. He wants to infiltrate and destroy me. Maybe go here, and torment me on the second rank. While I do not want to be tortured or tormented, I want to inflict some casualties on him. I want to go here, for example, and here, and target his 7th rank as well. The only problem for me is that my king needs some luft, which is a problem in some of the lines. He goes rook d2, I go rook e7, and he goes rook b to d5. And this is an idea, so of course I cannot take on f7, because this will be a checkmate in 2 moves. Instead, I go rook e1, and you see my rooks are doubled here, his rooks are doubled here. It's like a road for cars in the countries where they drive on the right side of the board. So not UK, but US or Russia. In India, by the way, I've been to India, but I forgot. I think they drive. Please, guys, I know I have lots of Indian fans. I've been to India one time in 2019. I've been to Ladakh, which is a part of India in the mountains. But I forgot where they drive. Please drop it in the comments. I honestly forgot. So, but this is like the roads in the US, but some small roads with just two elements. One for going this way, another for going that way. So that's what's happening. He goes rook d7. If I trade, he'll take with the king, and his rook will be more active than mine, so I don't want this to happen. I go king f1. I want him to take me, and then my rook will be infiltrating my Romanian rook. He goes rook a2. Now he wants to take my pawn, so I have to trade the rooks. But I put my rook on the 3rd rank, and I'm very confident that he will never win this game against me. If he wins this game against me, I should be kicked out of chess immediately. Even if he's Magnus Carlsen, he should not be able to win this endgame against me. So, because I have just one weakness and it's protected, and yes, he can try marching his king this way, but then I'll infiltrate and take all his king side, and maybe he will lose. So he understands that, and he advances his pawns. I block him from advancing, g6, and here I just go rook c3 to completely stop any ideas of the king infiltrating, because I don't want to deal with any of this nonsense. He seems a little bit frustrated by this. He goes c6. He probably wants to still somehow go with the king to the queen side. I go g3. I want to go with my king to the king side in turn. Now he goes a6 because, as I said, he wants to go to c7, but that would fail to b5. This pawn would be pinned, so he goes a6 to enable his king to cross. But now I just go king g2, and after king c7, I go king f3. And if he does nothing, I have a very logical plan. I go here, I push the pawn, I go with the king to f4, to g5 if allowed, and then I'll create a passed pawn and maybe I'll win this game. Let's see if this happened. He goes rook d2. He wants to prevent me crossing the Rubicon, so to say. I go king e3, attacking him, and after rook d5, I continue with my plan. I want to push my pawns on the king side because his king is so far from the king side. It should not even be called king side. It's no king side for black. He goes a5. And here I calculate a line, which I really liked. I go rook c5. And the idea is that if he moves the rook away from the fifth rank, then I just take his pawn and will be a pawn up and probably winning. If he first takes this pawn, I'll be winning in this pawn endgame because I have an outside passed pawn, and he will have to. His king will be distracted catching it, and my king will take his d pawn and then take all his pawns like Pac-Man. It's num num num, and he will take everyone. So that would be fatal for him. And also he's down on time here. He's thinking he has like 1 minute left, something like that. He takes my rook, which is the only move that enables him to stay in the game. But now there's a problem for him. If he goes here, he loses because I go here and I'll take his pawns, and he will not even be able to go here because I'll just go a4 and his king is stuck there. So he needs to go to the other way. And actually I calculated while going rook c5, I calculated the following variation. Take, king d7, g4, king a6, takes, king f4. So let me show this. This is what I calculated before going for this. No. First g4, then here. Takes, here. And actually, yeah, the engine says I'm winning. Nice. Because I calculated king d5, and I go here, c5, here. Oh, actually it's a draw again. Huh. I should run with my king. So my calculation was not so nice. But what I calculated, let me still show this to you. Not king g5, by the way. I calculated king g4. This is a mistake. Of course, I calculated king g4 because you need not be in check. King g4. So it's still winning, is it? It's still winning. Yeah. Here. Apparently it's a draw. But I calculated this, and I was very proud of myself. That I'm taking this pawn, and I'll be up a pawn in the queen endgame. But somehow, probably black still has a draw because of the perpetual check. But this is what I calculate. But it turns out here, white is winning if white goes king g5, and after c5, white runs back. And white stopped this pawn. Clever. So this is what I was calculating. When I was preparing, when I was checking whether I should go rook c5 or not. But then, when this happened, takes, king d7, g4, king's here, takes. Before going king f4, I realized that he doesn't have to go for this. He can just stop me with f6, and I will have to go to e4. And I decided, okay, I'll go to e4 immediately, whatever. And I was still optimistic about my chances in this pawn endgame, because if he goes f5 here, I think I'm winning. I go here, he has to go here because otherwise I will infiltrate, but then I go a4. And if he goes here, I infiltrate here. And if he goes here, I infiltrate here. This is what would have happened. So f5 loses here in this position. He is down on time. He has like a minute or something like that. He finds the best move, a4, to stay in the game. Now I go f4 again. If he goes f5, he loses. Because what I do is I go to this pawn. I take it. His king has to run back to stop my pawn. And then my king runs back to the king side. While he takes my pawn on the a file, I take his pawn on the f file and promote my f pawn. This is what I quickly calculated. But then he went f6, and I realized that, unfortunately, it will be a completely different story with the pawn on f6, because after check, I run to the a pawn, I take it, but I cannot break through because all the squares are controlled by his pawns, or my pawns, my own pawns are a hurdle, an obstacle. And I cannot go with my king anywhere to the king side because all the squares are controlled. All your base are belong to us. Do you know this meme? So this is exactly what happens here. So unfortunately, I cannot break through here. I offer a draw and we agree to a draw. I make a draw, but still good result against the former national under 12, under 20 Kazakhstan champion. This year he was vice champion, so he's still very strong. Obviously, FIDE master. I gained some rating points after drawing him. Now let's take a look at the second game because it was much crazier than the first one. So I'm playing Vladislav Malygin, who is the reigning junior champion of Kazakhstan, and he goes for the last time we played, he won. We played one game in Classical and he won in the King's Indian defense. And I thought maybe he'll go for this again. But now this time he switches it up. He goes for the Trumpovsky attack, which is a kind of a rare opening in Classical. In ways many people play it in Classical, I don't encounter it too often. But I knew my lines, but I was struggling to remember them precisely. So I went G6. I like to put the bishop on G7 whenever possible. He gives up the bishop for the knight to damage my pawn structure, and then he goes c4, and I spent some time remembering my lines, and then I remembered the idea. So I have to put the pawn on d5 and the bishop on d6, which is counterintuitive, because in most of those lines you want to fianchetto your bishop, put it on the long diagonal, but not in this line. So here you need to go d5 and then bishop d6. This is a good rule of thumb. If you play such systems with black, you should know this. So after e3 takes, bishop d6. This bishop is just more active on d6 than it is on g7. On g7 it would be stuck behind this even after f5 and bishop g7. This bishop has no scope, so on d6 it's much better. So just trust me and trust Stockfish. So castles, c5. I try to break open this pawn chain. He goes here, and here actually he played an inaccuracy. He should have played first knight e4, and that gave him some kind of equality. And now black is already better after the move which I found, which I'm very proud of, which is counterintuitive. I realized that I have the two bishops advantage. I should be pressing, I should be opening up position, but I'm stuck in I'm behind in development. My bishop is stuck. It cannot get out. All those squares are controlled by enemy pieces. So my light square bishop has no place to go. And I decide, you know what? I'll go knight c6, even though I damage my pawn structure. This will enable my bishop to go on the long diagonal and to pressure enemy's king. And really, I'm surprised that the engine says this is the top engine move, because I was hesitant to do it, but it is a top engine move. Because yeah, not many players would play this, because it's a committal decision. You ruin your pawn structure, and this c6 pawn will be a weakness, and my opponent will target it. But turns out after the game I checked this with an engine, and I was correct in doing this. Queen e2, queen c7. I'm attacking the h2 pawn, so obviously my opponent goes h3, preventing me from taking it. f5, preventing him from going knight e4, rook d1. a5. a5 is a logical move, because whenever you have a weakness, which is an a7 pawn, it is a weakness. It's a good rule of thumb to push it forward. Maybe I go a4, maybe kick some pieces that go to b3 if they do so. Maybe I even go to a3 and put the bishop on the long diagonal and pressure the b2 pawn. So that's the plan. He goes rook c1, I go rook b8. Again, this semi-open file should be used. Knight f3, and I go bishop e7. I want to put my bishop on the long diagonal to put pressure on b2, first of all. Then second of all, the bishop on d6 in many lines was a target, so I want to reroute it. He goes rook c2, and I go bishop b7. Now, in future, I dream of going c5 and opening this bishop, but the problem is that sometimes if I go c5, I can allow something like this, or something like this. Currently bishop d5. I didn't like this idea for him, trading my one of my bishops, and then I will no longer enjoy the two bishops advantage. I will enjoy just the one bishop advantage, but there is no such term in chess, because one bishop is not such an effective weapon as two. So here my opponent goes for some sophisticated stuff. He goes bishop d3, b3, because probably he wants to either put his queen in some variation on c4 to target f7, or he wants to put his knight on c4, because that would be an ideal square for the knight, because there is no b pawn, there is no d pawn to kick the knight away from the c4 square. So he goes bishop d3, I go rook d8. The position is in the balance, it is around equal. The only problem for me is my time usage, because I'm optimistic about my position. I realize that the two bishops are a menace, but I'm thinking too long. I'm thinking too long. 18th move, and I'm already down on time. I have like 13 minutes, and he has like 20 minutes. And let me tell you, the time control for these games is the fast classical. It is rated, FIDE rated as classical, but it is twice as fast as the normal classical that I'm used to. 45 minutes per game per opponent plus a 30-second increment after each move. According to the new FIDE reform, by the way, the guy who invented this time control is Oleg Skvortsov, who was one of the guests of my podcast, chess investor and philanthropist, and he's been saying for more than a decade, and you need to make the classical faster. You need to make this time control, and he organized in Switzerland some events, Zurich chess challenge in the 2016 or 14, like something like around that time. He organized several events with Magnus, with Hikaru, lots of top players. They were playing this time control, but back then it was not rated as classical. Now it is. Recently, FIDE finally accepted this reform. I think it's good. It makes the game faster and better for spectators, but it makes the game harder for us because we need to play faster, and sometimes we get in time trouble, which is exactly what happened to me. So I have just like 13 minutes at this point. I need to make my moves faster. He doubles the rooks. I go bishop f6. Again, I want to pressure f2, b2, but more importantly, I want to restrict the scope of his knight. His knight, you know, this is a good rule of thumb. When there are two squares between your bishop and enemy's knight, the enemy's knight is well restricted by your bishop because all those squares are controlled. Queen c4 is the move that my opponent chooses, pressuring the f7 pawn. Now my queen has to be glued to the defense of f7, which is not good, but the position is still in the balance. I take, and now I finally go c5, and my bishop is opened, and my opponent, even though he's up on time, he's facing a challenge, and he's facing a challenge, let's say, because what to do? Actually, the only move to be equal is knight d4, which is a logical move in my opinion, but he goes knight d1, and now he's worse already. Because, yeah, knight d1 is logical. Obviously, he wants to overprotect g2, but now I have some attack ideas like queen c6, pressuring it in future, and the knight will be glued to defense of g2, and the knight on e1 is on the rim, which means that it is dim. Of course, I cannot go queen c6 now because the queen will lose touch with the f7 pawn, but later on, maybe, we will see. So bishop e4 is the move I choose, top engine move, by the way. This game I did not play at 99% accuracy. The previous game I did play at 99% accuracy. My opponent played it at 98.8, something like this, according to Stockfish on chess.com. So yeah, the previous game was cleaner than this one, but also this game is quite clean. So bishop e4 is the top engine move. Now this bishop is restricting the poor knight. The poor knight again is two squares opposite from my bishop, which means that it is restricted and it is unhappy. So my opponent goes f3, but you know, Ben Feingold says never go f3, and Ben Feingold is correct about this position. f3 is seriously weakening the position because now all those dark squares are a problem for white. e3 is weak, and black is significantly better. Even if just black retreats to a8, black is better. But you know what is better than retreating? Attacking. And here I find the move I'm proud of, but this is my, I think, most severe mistake of this game. Not the move itself, but the fact that I spent most of my remaining time on it. I had 8 minutes on my clock at this point, and I spent 7.5 or even more on this very move. And from now on, I will be playing on increment, on the 30-second increment that gets added to my clock after I make each move. And it's a problem because you cannot calculate everything in 30 seconds. So this is a strategical mistake on my part that I invested all my time here, because I could have just retreated and retained my advantage, or rook b4. Rook b4, actually an idea which I implemented later, is a very nice move, attacking the queen, and then the bishop can retreat. But I found a move that chess.com believes to be a brilliant move, bishop g5. I have in my settings hidden the move classification, so that the two exclamation points are not shown on the board to you, but to the right I see that bishop g5 is brilliant, according to chess.com. The idea is that if he takes, I'll take here, and it's a check. Only move is rook f2, and there are various ways to play here. I can take, but even stronger is rook b4, which I would have gone for. And then after queen e2, I can take this rook, and then I can take this pawn, and I'm putting lots of pressure on my opponent. Even though he has two pieces for a rook, I have a bunch of pawns, and his king is so weak. Black should be winning in this position. So queen e2 takes, rook e4, big advantage for black. The engine says after c4, black is completely winning, but I would have gone rook takes e4. Also good enough, probably. So yeah. But instead of going for all this, my opponent quickly goes rook e2 and deprives me of all the fun. But this is a small concession that he has to make, because now the rook is stuck on e2. On d2, it was much more active. It was controlling this open file. Now it's behind its pawn. But I have to play on increment. I have to make moves, each move only using 30 seconds. First move I make is top engine move, rook b4, attacking the queen, ignoring the threat on my bishop. I quickly calculated that he can do this, takes with check, takes with check, king takes, and he takes my bishop with the pawn. So that's a variation he could have gone for, but I decided that it's much better for me, and the engine agrees. Rook takes e4, but even stronger is f takes e4 to prevent his knight from getting out. So this is what could have happened. He does not go for this after rook b4. Instead, he draws back to c1. And again, I have 30 seconds. The clock is ticking. Will I find the best move? Yes, I find the best move, a4. Again, I'm ignoring the threat on my bishop, because if he takes my bishop, I'll take his bishop, and then I'll take this pawn. It will not be fun for him. So he decides, again, he can take here and then take here, but again, it will be better for black. He decides to go bishop c4, which is the top engine move. Again, the clock is ticking. I have 30 seconds. Will I make the best move? Bishop b7. Yes, it is one of the best moves. Several lines are preferred by engine equally, and this one is one of them. Bishop b7, just dropping back. Still, I have some pressure. His knight is weak. And not participating in the game. So while he's thinking on his move, I realized knight d3 probably is the most logical move, just to attack my rook and to give some activity to his knight. And while he's thinking, I think, okay, knight d3, I go rook b6. Logical. If he takes here, which is a clever trap, I take here, takes with check, and I lose the queen. So this is an idea. So let me show this on the board. So I cannot take here because bishop takes f7 with check will win my queen. But then I realized rook c6 is very nice, and I will take some of those pieces. Actually, the engine says that white is actually holding on after rook c2. And even though white has just a rook for two bishops, it's a draw. It's zeros according to the engine, because my king is also not very happy, exposed, and white has a bunch of pawns as well. So this could have happened, even though I don't think my opponent would have taken on c5, because he would have seen rook c6 and he would not have gone for this. So rook b6. I calculate this move while he's thinking on his move. Now he makes his move knight d3, and I am like double checking everything. Okay, rook b6, and then I see, what if I take on f3? And if he takes, I go queen g3 check. And if he goes here, I take here with check. And if he blocks, I take here. I take everything. I destroy him. I also take on e3. And I notice this move when I have something like 10 seconds on my clock. And the clock is ticking. I have 2 seconds on the clock, and I immediately make this move while I have 2 seconds on the clock. And then after having made this move, I realized that I'm a complete bozo and that I've ruined everything. I've ruined a great position, because he can win in many ways. He can, first of all, take on b4, which he didn't do, but it's good enough. And takes, and yeah, he's up a piece. Okay, I can go queen e5 and attack here, but then knight c2. And everything is defended and he's up a piece. This is one way he can win. But another way he can win is easier. Takes, queen here, and I was calculating this, but he has this. And I have nothing. I cannot take here because the queen is controlling the square. And I'm like, I'm so stupid in this position. I have some tactics like rook takes c4, but then he can just take my queen. I take his queen. He takes with a knight. I take here and then take the knight because it's a check, but still it will be a rook versus bishop, and it's a winning endgame. Instead of this, again, the clock is ticking. I have 30 seconds to make my decision. I take a pawn. I realize I'm completely lost. Now he starts thinking, and I realize that he has bishop takes f7. And if I take, he has knight e5, forking me and winning the queen. Very beautiful. And he finds it, of course. Bishop takes f7. I cannot take. I go king g7. And now he just takes my bishop. And I'm down two pieces. I'm completely lost. Also on time as well. I'm struggling. But I try to play on. I go rook h4, trying to pretend that I have some attack, maybe checkmate him, which is, well, not going to happen. Spoiler alert. He checks me, and he finds the best move here. Obviously, there are lots of ways to win here with white. Just rook g2 is good enough, dropping back, but he finds the most stylish finish. The French would say coup de grace, the final killing blow. Rook takes g6, very, very effective, very beautiful. I have to take, of course, and then queen h8 check. I have to go here, queen d8 check. Now the king is checked, but also this rook is x-rayed. I have to go here to keep in touch with my rook, but then bishop takes g6 is the final nice touch. If I take here again, I lose my queen with check, and if I go here, I lose my rook with check, so I resign the game in this position. So unfortunately, I was playing a very good game up until the moment when I started going crazy because of this time pressure. Here, bishop takes f3 is, I don't know, I should work on my time management. That's my takeaway from this game. Obviously, after rook b6, anything could have happened. I still had not enough time to say confidently that I would have pressed and played for a win in this game, but probably I could have won or drawn at least this game. But you know, things happen. Things like this happen. I think this will be a valuable learning experience for me. Tomorrow there will be rounds 3 and 4. Please drop a comment if you are looking forward to some new recaps. In round 3, I will be playing against a FIDE master. Again, lots of great opponents in this tournament. Some good practice for me. Hopefully, I will not disappoint you guys. Wish me luck in the comments, and see you in the next one. Bye-bye.